Hello, and welcome to another episode of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. I am Rico, and I'd like to remind everyone I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, and I am not a medical professional in any way. Just a regular person trying to navigate through life and trying to navigate what's going on in here. Like I said before, it's a little bit better, but it's still a huge mess. There's still a lot of untangling to do, lots. I realize that when I feel like I'm better, but then sometimes if something not in my favor happens, I tend to react as that hurt child again. And I'm trying not to. I want to be the adult that will protect that small hurt child. And yeah, it's still a challenge for me. I am a work in progress, and I can only move forward. I can't really go back and change anything, but it is what it is. So I want to get back to the topic of my past work job experiences. In the last video, I had just gotten away from, let's see, where was I with the last one? Yeah, I was at the flooring store, and they took advantage of me by making me do two jobs for the lesser of the two pays. They never gave me any compensation. I never got any praise or appreciation. Not that I was looking for praise, but at least acknowledge what I'm doing. They didn't do any of that. They just kind of acted like they wanted more. And I got super frustrated, so I left. And I left that place for a local candy factory, I guess you could call it. Hoping things would be better. This was a much bigger place, more people. I had experience in warehousing and forklift driving. In fact, I had gotten a certification to teach forklift drivers. I was the one that was certifying them to drive the forklifts when they came in and, make sure they were able to do it. So before all of that, though, I started in production, and I started as a temp. They have a way of starting everyone as a temp. If you work out, they'll more than likely bring you in, but if you don't, you're just a temp. They can let you go, and they can get 10 more temps. They went through temps like crazy. But I was in production. I was able to drive the forklifts. I was able to drive the little forklifts that they had. And it was just sort of kind of like the other factory where there was one guy who set up the machine, and then the operators kind of took care of everything else. And it was interesting at first. Over on the production side, everybody got along pretty well. Things just kind of went as they did. You had to wear earplugs because the machines were loud. So, it was a completely different experience. I mean, they had their rules and their modes of operation, and we just kind of had to follow all their guidelines, especially when it comes to, any kind of food production. You have to have high standards for all of that. And I understand that. And I did at the time too. And it was okay. Everything was cool. The team was cool. But when it came time for the wave of letting temps go and bringing people on to be hired, I found out that I would get to stay. And I was excited about that. But they didn't have room for me in production. But they wanted to keep me there. So they decided to send me to shipping, which was a better fit because I had the forklift and I was able to drive all of their lifts. They had a couple of different, I don't know what you call it, like aisle lifts where forklifts couldn't get stuff. And, tight space lifts. They had a bendy that was really big and cool, and I enjoyed driving that. But, yeah, it was okay at first. But I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back with a little more of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Welcome back to This is Rico, trying to heal my inner child. I'm on the topic of my past work and job experiences. And in this episode, I'm talking about a local candy factory that I worked for. Started in production. And when they hired me in officially, I moved to shipping. And like I said before, it was a better fit because I had experience with forklifts. I had experience with loading and unloading trucks. I experience with all of that. And I think that's what that was their thinking was, I was a better fit for that. So I go to shipping, and at first I'm just pulling orders, just like everyone else, small orders, just doing what they're doing. But I noticed it was a completely different world than production. Production, everybody just kind of got along and did their things. And shipping, not so much. There was a whole bunch of order pickers. And to be quite honest, they were a bunch of crybabies. They love to go behind everyone else's backs, and they love to gossip, and they love to talk all kinds of smack, and they love to just take their time pulling these orders. And then when they would have to stay later to finish the orders, they would get upset and act like they were just being treated unfairly. And, I found myself pulling 2 or 3 times the orders that they were pulling. It wasn't fair, but I was still at the bottom and I had no idea what to do. So I just kept doing it. And, you know, it was frustrating. It was exhausting. It was discouraging watching all of these people just complain. Give them work to do, which is what they're there to do. And they acted like they were just being treated unfairly. All of them. They just were just the biggest bunch of crybabies I've ever dealt with. And that's saying the least. And they would take advantage of me in production because production would need help once in a while. And they would say, oh, hey, we could get him. He worked in production already. He can come help us. So when I'm supposed to be pulling orders, now I'm over on production. And then when I would ask, why can't you just keep me in production? Oh, we don't have room for you. Well, you obviously need somebody over here. So there's got to be some kind of room, but they wouldn't do it. They just kind of left me over in production. They left me in shipping, but then they would just call me over like every time they needed help. And what really kind of bothered me was that when I would go to production and I would help, that just meant that there was a couple of guys that could stand around. One guy would watch the box machine. The box machine was automated. But he was just going to stand there and do that. I remember mentioning to him, hey, if you're just standing here, why can't I go back and you can do this? And, oh, they want me to do this. And it was just frustrating. And suddenly I found that the production guy started having this attitude like production comes first, so you have to help us. We have precedence. And then on nights when I couldn't go over and help them, then they would turn into big crybabies and they would just start to complain. And the higher ups, the supervisors that wanted to just stand around, suddenly they had to help out and work a little bit. And that was frustrating as well. They took me for granted. They just kind of acted like I was there to do what they needed. And, in a sense I was, but it wasn't fair to pull me from where they hired me for to go and help this other department. So I kept doing it and kept doing it. And after a while, the shipping managers, they decided they didn't like that anymore because they were just taking hours away from shipping. So they told production, you guys just have to deal. We need him over here pulling orders. We have all this stuff that needs to go out. And after a while, they moved me to the truck loading part of shipping, where all I had to do was check the orders. The others would pull the orders. And then I was one of the guys that would check them, make sure the inventory was right, wrap them, label them. And when a truck would show up for a shipment, then, I was there to load the truck. And it was okay. It was okay for a while. Although dealing with all of those crybabies, I hate to keep calling them that over and over again, but that's the only way I can describe them nicely. They just complained about everything. And then they had an attitude Like, oh, there's not a lot of jobs out there, so you should be grateful for this. So they wanted you to be grateful, but then they wanted to treat you like, you were just, you didn't matter. So they had me doing that. And eventually they approached me for a supervisor role. I guess there was a handful of managers, like there always is, but they wanted somebody between the managers and the workers. They created a supervisor role and decided they needed a little more supervision. So the management approached me and asked me if I was interested. It came with a pay raise, um, you know, came with a title, a lot more responsibility. So I took it. Of course, I was going to take it. It was more money. I didn't realize how much more headache they would be with it, but when they flash the money, then of course I'm gonna probably go for it. So I am gonna take another break, and I'll be back with a little more of This Is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Hello, and welcome back to This Is Rico trying to heal my inner child. I'd like to get back to the topic of my past work job experiences. Um, I am in the process of talking about one job in particular at a local candy factory, which I'm not going to name because they don't deserve any free advertisement. But I started in production. I went to shipping, became a supervisor. At the time, like I had mentioned before, I had forklift certification to teach forklift drivers, and I had the power to certify them. And it was okay at first. At first, I had 3 managers above me, and then I had to deal with the managers over in production, and then I had to deal with the salespeople. The salespeople were a whole different world. They were the ones that sat in their chairs in their offices upstairs, and I guess took orders, and that was it. That was it. Now, before long, I started to become the scapegoat. I was the one in the middle. I would go to production. Hey, we're supposed to ship this out. Do we have it? And they would say, no, we didn't make it yet. And then I would have sales coming at me saying, why didn't this ship out yet? And there was one in particular, one salesperson in particular, that every time I would say, they didn't make it yet. We don't have it yet. Well, that's not what I was told. That's not what I was told, which was this person's way of calling me a liar. And they all acted like I didn't know what I was doing. They all acted like I was incompetent. Like they all acted like it was my fault. But nobody wanted to help me. Nobody wanted to work with me. Nobody wanted to, help me to understand. Nobody wanted to deal with the stuff that I was dealing with. I'd go to production. Oh, we don't have it. And they would that was it. But then sales wanted to act like I was completely 100% responsible for it and no one else. Like it was my fault. Like I was hiding it or taking it home or something. I don't know what they were implying, but it was frustrating. Absolutely frustrating. They wanted to make me responsible for it all. They didn't want to take any accountability or responsibility for themselves. And I feel like that's why they put me in the middle, just to have somebody to blame. Just to have somebody to blame. And after a while, I think I had stayed there for about 2 years. They decided to let me go. And I got to tell you, I was so relieved. I was so relieved I didn't have to deal with this stuff anymore. I was doing 60 to 80 hour weeks. The raise they gave me was salary, and I don't feel like they compensated me for all the time I was there. But I was loyal. I was committed. I tried my best, my hardest. and they just spit in my face. All of them. They just chewed me up and spit me out just like all the others. And I'm realizing that I still don't have a good grasp of conflict resolution. I still don't know how to deal with confrontation. I still was just irritated as hell because of the way they were talking to me. I didn't deserve to be talked to in that manner at all. Nobody does. But I took it and I didn't know what to do. So I just kept taking it. I just kept taking it and just rolling with those punches that shouldn't even have been there in the first place. We all could have worked along together, but we didn't. Nobody wanted to. They wanted me to be in the middle so that they had someone to blame. So I absolutely hated working there and I was glad to be done. And I always have hopes of things would be better, but they just are not. I had high hopes for that place. But I'm going to take another break and I'll be back with just a little more of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Welcome back to This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. I am on the topic of my past work experiences and the the impact that they had on me. Um, my interactions were still influenced by my past. And like I mentioned before, I still really didn't know how to deal with conflict resolution or confrontation. I didn't know how to deal with people just being rude and obnoxious to me for no reason. They just did it because they could. And that happened a lot. That was another constant theme that was just people being abusive just because they could. They could have been cordial, they could have been nice, and they could have tried to work together, but they didn't want to. They wanted to assert their power, assert their authority. They wanted to make sure that we all knew that they were in charge. And it just blows my mind that the people that were making the decisions and not really doing any work, just being there and just criticizing everything everyone else did. They were on top and they made all the money, and everybody else who did the work and did the hard back breaking labor didn't get anything. We just were the faceless, nameless ghouls again. Again, like always, that always happens. But after I left that place, I was without a job for a little while, and it was it was after a horrible experience at this factory. I found a job with a small company. I had applied at places all over the place, and it was a small place that had done heat treating, more specifically for like padlocks. So they needed a driver to go pick up these padlocks, bring them to the heat treating facility, and then deliver them back. And that pretty much was the job. And there was a route, and there was ordinary stops, and you would deliver parts back or go pick up parts, and it was So I had a guy training me, and he was a really nice guy. I will say he was a nice guy. So we would drive together, and I had a little notebook, so I started writing down directions to all these places because none of them were that close. It was, you had to drive all over the place to get these materials. But before I could even get started with that place, I was offered a job at a much larger place. This was how do we call it? It's a soft drink company, a large soft drink company. This was a global company. I'm not going to mention their name because they don't deserve the advertisement, and plus they don't need it. Not for me. But it was a good opportunity for me. It was a good opportunity for me to make some decent money for once. And I took it. It was a challenging position. It was a challenging job because it was a night job. You started at 4 p.m. and you were done when you were done. So I went in there and I was hired as a temp, like all big companies will do, and worked for about maybe 2 months. It was 2 months I was there, and they decided to hire me in. And I had heard horror stories of temps working for an entire year before they got hired in. There were guys that were working in that warehouse that were all full-time employees, but they had worked for a year as a temp. And I didn't know if I was going to stick around that long to wait to get hired. But luckily for me, I worked hard. They noticed it, and decided to bring me on. And that was a good job because the pay was very, very excellent. It was very excellent. The job was hard. It was backbreaking. You had to work all night, 12, 16-hour nights every night. And it was a new experience. I had experience with forklifts and everything, but I was started off at the bottom being an order picker. And I had experience with picking orders. So, I mean, it was just kind of natural to just get in there and learn how to do it. So this job I am going to get into in the next episode of This is Rico Trying to Heal My Inner Child. I'm going to conclude this video. I just want to say again how much I appreciate all of you. I would like to thank you all from the heart of my bottom and just say thank you. I appreciate you and I love you all. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Please, if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe. Share this with everyone, and let's build this community and see how we can keep each other together and keep each other, supported. So I want to thank you again, and I will be back very, very soon with another episode of This is Rico Trying to Heal My Inner Child. Thanks.